When I was a little kid,
All right.
I was born on 267 East 65th Street in Manhattan. That's it, right on Second Avenue and Second Avenue and the East Side, on 65th Street and Second Avenue. My mother paid $17 a month rent there.
Mm-hmm.
Then my father died. So she had to go somewhere. So she moved to Brooklyn for $8 a month.
What did your father do?
Well, my father, his last business, he's the starter of Nettix in New York. Years and years ago on 3rd Avenue, on 3rd Avenue and 34th Street was the first Nettix place. That was my father's place.
He worked there or he owned it?
He owned it, yeah.
A franchisee?
No, it was no franchise. It was
just
that
him.
was the name. And then they had 3 or 4 of them. And he was on his way to making a lot of money. Then he got cancer. He had the blood cancer. What is that?
Leukemia.
Leukemia. And at that time, he died right within 3 months.
So then your mother remarried?
So later on, she remarried.
Oh, so she didn't remarry then?
About 5 years later.
And what's the story with...
I'll tell you. You know, I had my 2 uncles. I had the film delivery business and the theaters. Well, in 1922, 23, they needed money. And my mother loaned them a lot. She had money because she had sold the business already. And my mother wanted an interest in Prudential, and they wouldn't. But Joe Sider wanted to give it to her, but the other uncle wouldn't give her an interest in Prudential. Anyway, they paid her back, but she never had an interest. Otherwise, she would have been fantastically well off. Because from there, they had the film delivery, and then they had the 200 theaters when they sold out. So that's all the story about my mother. No, what it goes
Let's talk about the pickle barrel story next.
What pickle?
Your
We had a pickle barrel story. Pickle barrel story was with Murder Incorporated.
Right. What was your stepfather's
My
name?
stepfather's name was Benny Yazvin. So anyway,
What was his last name?
Benny Yazvin, Yazvin. Anyway, we had a pickle store, and well, I think I already started to work. Harold was working, so he was running it himself. And the Butter Incorporated, when they got through with a job, used to come in, and he had a barrel, which he put with pickles, but he put a thing in and had a little space between them. They used to put the guns in there, and nobody would ever know it. And then for years and years and years, and he hid the guns for it. Never got a nickel for it, but he hid the guns for it. That's the pickles.
He had protection for it? Is that what it was?
No, it's nothing to get protection. It was nothing. Because they used to hang around Saratoga, Livonia, and that's, they knew that there was a safe place to put the guns.
How did he know them?
Hmm?
How did he know them?
They used to hang out in the corner. They used to buy pickles when they went home Friday night. They used to buy pickles to take home to the family.
And they were all Jewish?
They were all Jewish. A couple of Italians, but I'm talking about the Jewish.
Did you know them?
Maybe Relish, I knew Relish, Bugsy Goldstein, Phil Strauss, all of them. And that was the story. I don't know what ever happened after they got arrested. I guess everything disappeared, the guns and all. But that's this pickle story.
And you grew up, that was Brownsville?
What?
Where did you grow up in Brooklyn?
East New York. After we moved from Manhattan to Brooklyn, we lived in Powell and the Belmont. And then mother remarried, so we bought a house on Sutter Avenue in East New York, and that's where I grew up. Went to high school from there.
Which high school?
I went to John Adams High School.
And then
Queens. Harold went to Thomas Jefferson in Brooklyn, but I went to John Adams.
I went to different Thomas Jefferson. Yes. And you didn't go to college?
No, I went for a while. Nothing.
Where'd you go?
I went to Columbia for a year and a half, 2 years,
Really?
but I couldn't. I was working most of the time.
What were you
I
doing?
was always looking. Oh, I worked for my uncle on the film delivery trucks,
Hmm.
and I worked for a poster company. Did a lot of things all the way through, and that was it. And I was a salesman, and that's how I met your grandmother
In Boston.
in Boston, the Medford Theater. I remember. I was measuring the marquee for a valance, and your mother was delivering candy there. Your grandfather had the candy stand there. That's how I met your grandmother.
And then, so
We got married, then we had a son named Peter,
yes.
and that was it.
What year were you born in?
But that's a part of the story. Then the
So,
war came, and I went into the army, and
where did you do your training for the Army?
yeah, in Macon, Georgia.
What base? Do you know?
I don't know what it is. I did basic training, 16 weeks, then they shipped me overseas with the 2nd Division.
Mm-hmm.
And the first part of the army was in Brest, France. The Germans had occupied it. And, this was about the 6th, the 7th day. And I came in then, and we in Brest, and then he took over Brest. From there we went to the Maginot Line. From there to the German line, I forgot the name.
This was during the Battle of the Bulge?
What?
This was the Battle of the Bulge?
And that's what became the Battle of the Bulge. I had
Daddy.
just left my brother Harold. I was visiting him here, and he was in Thau, Belgium. It was arranged through Red Cross. And I just came back, and the Bulge came on. And we were in we moved up the trenches, and I'll never forget, Whaley was on my left, he was a sergeant, another guy, I forgot the other guy's name on the right, and a mortar shell hit. Both of them got killed, one on the left and one on my right, and I went crazy. I ran, I kept running all the way back. I laid down on the ground, I laid there for 72 hours on the snow ground and all. When it picked me up, my feet were black. And I ended up in Belgium. The Bulge came, so the Germans were coming. They shipped me to Paris. From Paris, the Germans were coming there, so they shipped us to England. And as they carried me off the boat, there was a guy from Brooklyn, the doctor. I knew him from Saratoga area. He looked at me and said, "Hey, George, what are you doing here?" I said, "What are you doing here?" And from there it was went all the way home.
And
He arranged everything. He gave me 100% disability. It was a fantastic deal. I was the luckiest son of a bitch that ever lived.
you were also shot at one point. Where was that?
Well, I got hit in the back. I had 2 Purple Hearts. Got hit in the back another. I don't remember what it was. That was my year and a half in the army.
Then you came home.
I came home and what did I do that? I don't remember. Oh yeah, after a while I went to work for my uncle. And then I got discouraged with that. And I went to California, worked in pictures.
When you were in California, you were a waiter at a restaurant at some point in the story with that?
I was a waiter there. I tried to get in pictures. I only had one guy that gave me anything. Son of Monte Cristo, I remember that. There was 2 or 3 pictures. And I worked there. And I also worked as a waiter. Now I've got the Sportsman's Lodge in California. And then we left there in '56.
What was
I
this?
came back to New York.
There was a hit at the restaurant you were working at?
Yeah, the Sportsman's Lodge.
Jeremy said there's a picture of there was a mob hit or something there. That he said it's on the cover of a newspaper somebody had.
What's a
it.
mob?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, that's.
Daddy, what's a
Uh,
mob? Oh no.
I was with Ruth then. May she rest in peace. Was my wife. And we came to California. Ruth worked for a big Century Circuit. She was the candy buyer for that. Anyway, we went to California, and I heard Bonnie Radinsky was opening a restaurant called Sherry's on the Strip. And I was working as a waiter, so I said to Ruth, hey, why don't you become a cocktail waitress? So she became a cocktail waitress at Sherry's. And I worked at Mike Lyman's, and every night I used to come there and pick her up. And one night, Mickey Cohn was a gangster. He and his mom used to come there every night at 11:30, 12 o'clock, and they'd have coffee and cake and kibitz. Sinatra used to come in. All the stars used to hang out there. And one night they shot, as Mickey Cohn was coming out, his bodyguard, Nettie Herbert, got hit right away. And as soon as I saw him get hit, I ran down and I tried to pick him up. And they took a picture, and that was in the Daily News the next day. That's what Harold called me up. What the hell is that? They thought I was a gangster. I wasn't, though. We were working there. And then that place closed up, and I went to the Sportsman's Lodge, and then I came back to California, from California, and I worked as a waiter here, and a friend of mine, Bill McCullough, says to me, he's working as a salesman, selling paint, making $1,000 a week. In those days, $1,000 a week was a lot of money.
How much did a car cost?
So he says to me, come on, sell paint. I said, I can't, I'll tell you, you're crazy? Come on. So I went, I never sold anything in my life. Anyway, I went trading for him for a week. I went up to Maine, and boom, I became a good salesman. I did fantastic in Maine. Then Ruth and I traveled from Maine to Washington. We worked every state in the Union for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. And I started to hire men and getting override. And we had about 15 men. We were working in Mississippi. And the boss called me up and says, you got to get all your men out. I said, I can't. He said, well, I don't care. He says, I've got to put somebody in there. So I had seen my sister Bee a couple of weeks before in New York, and she was telling me about her Eddie Zeitlin brother had a paint factory in New Jersey. So he said to me, I called Bee up. I said, ask Eddie if he would be interested in having a franchise deal, and we would run it for him. She says, yes, come right up. And this was, I'll never forget it, a week before Christmas, 1964. I came up, we made a deal, and we started this. I had all these salesmen selling paint, and I was in the office building a whole thing. In 1 week we put that thing together. It was phenomenal. And about a year later, Max Carey, who was our accountant, called me over. He says, you know what happened in the company with the Zeitlins? I said, no. He says, I just picked up their general ledger. He says, they made a clear profit of $90,000 this year, plus they paid off all their attorneys from the suits. And he says, I don't believe what I saw. So I went to Eddie, I says, look, we got to get a new product. I want 50%. He says, no. So Max says, you go into business, don't worry, I'll put you, we'll start you off. And that's how we started the business. And a year later, Max quit. We paid him off. And a year later, Harold came into the business. And then we got rid of Phil Desac. And then we ran the business till 1998. That's my whole life.
Well,
there's one story I shouldn't tell you, but I'll tell it. My wife died Christmas, New Year's Eve, 1969. I haven't seen Peter I didn't see Peter no later for many years. And after she died, I was very, very down. And I wanted to find out where Peter was. And I called somebody and said, oh, he's working somewhere, he's in the South. So I had a salesman in the South, see if you can find a Peter Blank. And they called me up, they said, he's in Atlanta. So I called Peter, and he was, flustered. They were married already. So anyway, we made arrangements. We went to Miami. I met them in Miami. We spent 3-4 days together. And the first time I met Nita. And we kept in touch with each other. Anyway, my business was good. I had a beautiful apartment in Brooklyn. And I had I had a heart attack in 1966. So I had 2 apartments, one in Jersey. Anyway, Peter calls me one day. He says, I'm leaving Atlanta. We're going to go to work in New York. I says, oh, great. He says, we took an apartment in Long Island, in Queens somewhere. I said, okay, great. So they came over to visit us. And we sat, we talked. They left at 12 o'clock at night. Phone rings, can we see you? I said, come on. Nita and Peter walked in. They said they walked into that apartment. It was full of roaches and all. She wouldn't stay there. You mind if I stay here? P.S. They stayed there for 3 years or 4 years. And they found my son Peter, and it was, from then on, it was great. I met Peter, Nita's parents and all. It was a mother. That's my whole complete story.
Well, you met Chris when?
Huh?
Yes.
All right, the Chris story. Then I met Chris. It was a stupid thing. Anyway, she got pregnant, and 1 week before Jeremy was born, I said, hey, you better that baby's going to have it, better get married. We got married. Jeremy was born. 3 weeks later, she was gone and all. Anyway, I raised Jeremy. That was the hooker shift.
Oh.
It's good. It's the little things I can't, try to remember a lot of things, but that's it.
That's it. Now we're here in Florida.
Now you want to hear the whole story. Now what do you want to hear?
How much did a car cost when you were
What did?
A car.
When the year you were making, was making $1,000 a week, what did a car cost then? You were saying.
What's a car? A Cadillac, I think, was $3,000.
That'd be making
I
$20,000 a week now.
Bought Nita and Peter a car. It was a Ford. I think it was $1,500 a new one. They used it for a while.
When did you get the house in Livingston?
Huh?
When did you get the house in Livingston?
1971.
It was brand new when you bought it?
Brand new, yeah. $99,000. Last year it sold for $1,600,000. Should have stayed there. We're making $100,000 a year without just to stay there. And what else do you want to know?
How much did a pound of candy cost?
And everything's crazy.
How much did a house cost?
Things happen.
How much did a pound of candy cost?
What there?
A pound of candy.
A pound of candy? There's the candy.
No, how much did a pound of candy cost?
A pound of candy? $1.95.
How much did a house?
How much what?
Is a house?
The house?
Yeah.
The house, in Livingston, where your father used to come over every Friday night. Your father and mother used to come there every Friday night and play with Jeremy. And they used to run around the house. And Abby used to run into my bedroom, and I used to have candy right next to my bed. And she used to run and grab the candy. Every week, I'll never forget it. Abby.
Did you do it too?
And,